What happens when an elite musician feels stress before a major performance? My name is Leonardo. I'm a PhD student researching the intersections between neurobiology, sleep, and music therapy. And I had the chance to have a conversation with Carlos Vegas, the concertmaster of the world-renowned Venezuelan Symphony Orchestra, La Simón Bolívar. What does concertmaster mean? He's the first violin and also the second musical leader after the conductor, who was Gustavo Dudamel, a Grammy Award-winning conductor. Carlos is reflecting here about his performance at the Royal Festival Hall and at Wembley. Talks about how he transforms his stress into presence.
The big question of how to handle that nerve that seems natural to human beings, and I would truly prefer to live it. I'd rather feel it, because that is exactly what gives me the adrenaline to live the moment, at least musically speaking. And, well, I understand that so much of my responsibility rests on this. If I should manage to tune the orchestra and I look as if I am frightened, I am going to scare the orchestra. I am going to completely unbalance them. Because they will think, what's wrong with Carlos? Because he's simply like that. What's wrong with him indeed? Yes, indeed. So you see, the audience, in its incredibly generous and enduring way, somehow helped me settle my nerves. That wonderfully warm, almost glowing applause the orchestra received when I was finally able to step out onto the stage was so beautiful, so wonderfully familiar, to such an extent that it made me feel completely at home. I stood there listening to the crowd with gratitude and quiet awe, overwhelmed by their warmth. In fact, I lived the whole concert as if I had been home, and truly it is a memory I will always carry with me, not only in my mind, but deep in my soul and in my heart.
Well, quite incredible. Yes, they played very beautifully and very nicely. I have no words for the experience I loved, truly. And thank you so much for sharing the process you went through in that concert as well. How interesting it is to hear it from your perspective as a musician and leader. Well, I have so many questions about how you have performed at Wembley and about how the audience is different and how the venues differ from ordinary concert halls, or more generally about what you foresee for the future for you and El Sistema. As a soloist and as a concertino, let's choose the question about your own future and for El Sistema.
I foresee many, many more years truly ahead for El Sistema, perhaps a great many indeed, longer than anyone could possibly imagine. That is, I feel that just as music is infinite, El Sistema already is infinite or has always been throughout its long history. In fact, since its genesis, Maestro Abreu is infinite in every sense. It is something incalculable and invaluable. That is, I am happy to continue being in this family, sharing in its growth and harmony, truly. I feel that, given everything that is presently happening with El Sistema, it is not limited to the Bolívar Orchestra alone, but clearly extends to include other groups as well. At the moment, there is soon a scheduled tour by the Juan José Landeta Symphony Orchestra, during which they will be accompanied by the Simón Bolívar Choir. Additionally, El Sistema's premier choral ensemble at the highest level of vocal singing remains the leading group in that domain too. Also the National Youth, as I mentioned to you, and the National Children's Division, that is to say, the entire Sistema is vast and expansive. The Francisco de Miranda Orchestra was in Russia recently as well. I think there are many projects planned for next year regarding El Sistema. A symposium is coming up, and the World Congress of El Sistema. I think the celebration of the 50th anniversary is continuing, perhaps lasting for a very long time. Who knows for how long this might go on. A long road ahead, and many places still to reach. And even though borders no longer exist, El Sistema is already everywhere. El Sistema can go much farther still, much farther than we have imagined indeed. And so the question remains, for how long will it go on? And I feel that this could also help to advance my solo career within the broader musical system. In fact, by sharing with you all the experiences we've lived through on this tour, I've managed to connect very deeply with that notion within myself in terms of pursuing a path as a solo artist. I didn't expect to take part in this in such a way, even if only briefly, at the Wembley Stadium. That is, in the place where on the very first day it didn't feel normal, And since then, day after day, I have experienced a growing flutter of nerves. This whole experience is already guiding my future as a performer. But it has been incredibly, wonderfully beautiful overall. I've enjoyed it enormously, especially because one of the reasons for making this piece is that it is being dedicated to Maestro José Antonio Abreu and of course the ongoing, evolving, creative work of Maestro Gustavo Dudamel. And that has given me a somewhat different kind of inner strength, or a new way to interpret this marvelous and emotionally charged piece by Max Richter, more heartfelt and with greater depth throughout overall. And judging by what people tell me, those who have been in the audience, and by the videos I've seen of the people who attended these openings, I find it deeply meaningful to me. So basically, if the message has indeed arrived here and now, truly, the message is precisely about the union of love and harmony. It is a clear, hopeful message of peace. It is a message that, in the end, seeks to say that music transcends anything whatsoever, whatever it may be, in any circumstance, in any social stratum, and in any other thing.